Hi, I want to say good morning, but for me it's good afternoon, so it's a little bit confusing which time zones everyone's in. But with that said, I'm going to essentially jump straight into this. So today we're going to be doing some live demonstrations of food sense generation 4. Literally nothing is pre-prepared. In fact, I'm even just taking sensors off meters at the moment. So I just want you to know that this is a zero slide demonstration. What I mean by zero slide demonstration is want to keep things interesting and relevant. So rather than spending, you can hear me, rather than spending lots of time introducing the company, talking about the technology, and giving you kind of, all that background information, it's probably better off just to let the technology essentially speak for itself. So what I do have in front of me is a food sense generation 4. I've got lots of different types of samples, some of them easy to assemble, some of them not assemble, but some of them are easier to prepare, some of them are a little bit harder to prepare. If you've got any questions afterwards, you can always contact us here. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing for a second and let this essentially let this camera jump up, and I'm just going to put a bit of fresh material into here. But what I want you to know is that we're not going to finish with this. I've got a couple of chilies in front of me as well. So we will be doing many demonstrations. I've got a blender in front of me. I've got a vortex in front of me. So just know that this is not one of those kind of let's talk about it kind of webinars. This is actually one of those let's do it kind of webinars. So first thing I'll do is I'll put the chili sensor essentially into the meter, close it up. That's in. I'm going to start off with a kind of quite a mild sample type and quite an easy one to prepare sample type, and then we'll get more and more sophisticated as we go through. So first thing I'll do is say that when we started doing this, we were kind of finding our feet, and some of the sample types were quite mild, especially the ones, especially the kind of stuff that you kind of get commercially. These things can be a lot sort of milder than some of the kind of artisan products that people are also producing. So I do have some artisan products here. What I mean by an artisan product is some hot sauces, but also I'll be dealing with some more complicated sample types like an actual chili here as well, just so you get a sense of, this is not just a sort of essentially a one-trick pony. But what I've just done there is taken a sample of a chili sauce. I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. These little vials are quite useful. They kind of handle everything quite nicely. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring into shot a vortexer. Now, a vortexer, I got this one off Amazon. They are easy to source. I'm just going to give this a quick. I think I'll probably give this like 20 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So no probs. I'm shaking it like crazy. That's a good way of homogenizing that sample and a good way of helping to extract the capsaicin out of the sensor. What I'll now do is grab a 50 microliter pipette. I'll grab that sample. What I want to do is I just want to, at the moment, I've got the app on my phone. The app is in Bluetooth connection with the food sense. I'm just going to give this a name that I can find. Mild sauce. I'll just put the word 10 in there because it helps to remind me that I did a 1 in 10 dilution. That's done. Right, so the app is set up. I'll grab the sample. Just looking at it, and I'll put the sample on 50 microliters, and then we're good to go. What I'm showing here is, depending on the sample type, it can actually be quite quick and easy to actually prepare these samples and also get a test as well. So we've got the sample on there. We've given it a name. I'll choose 1 in 10 because that's what I did, 1 in 10 dilution. So I've got a drop down menu here, start measurement, and off it goes. It's quite nice because it gives you a kind of real-time feedback that something's happening. I appreciate that's just a squiggly line, just, being generated on the app, but it does give you a sense that the device is working. And what we've got there is 5,290, which is more or less perfect. I did that one because it's a bit of an old classic. This is actually quite a new bottle. I literally just opened it then as I cracked it open then. So that's a new bottle of Tabasco, and it's got a Scoville Heat Units of 5,290. They do say they ship it sometimes between 2.5 and 5.5 thousand Scoville Heat Units, which gives you some sense of actually, they ship it in a range and nobody ever complains because actually people are not so sensitive that they can distinguish between 2,500 and 5,500 Scoville Heat Units. But so we've got that one sort of more or less on perfect, but that's an easy one to do, and it's a little bit of a classic, just kind of break us in there a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something slightly harder. So I'll just take just going to make myself a little bit of space here, and just bring in a little food blender that I have. I've got a couple of chilies here just to kind of show you that, I've got some in here already, but I'll just throw these guys in as well. This food blender literally cost me, $40 online. I've got to be a little bit careful because it ends up sort of aerolizing. I'm sure you're aware of that, all the kind of the chili. What I want to do is I just want to bring a little balance in. So I'm just going to push this to the side and bring a little balance into shot. What I'll do is I'll just turn the balance on. What I'm now going to try and do is weigh out about 100 milligrams of this chili. Excuse my coughing. I'm just going to tear this. So I've got 92, excuse me, 92 milligrams. You can tell it's real, and I'm doing it live because. So I've got 96 milligrams. So for the sake of a live demo, I won't try and get the last 2 milligrams because, but that essentially, by not getting the 2 last milligrams, I have introduced an approximate 2% error into my result. I also noticed that I've actually grabbed a seed when I was trying to avoid seeds, because seeds, essentially, they give mass, but they don't give any capsaicin. So it might give me a sort of, but as long as you're aware that a chili like that is not heterogeneous. Sorry, it is heterogeneous rather. It's not homogeneous in terms of its capsaicin concentration. But I have about 100 milligrams in there. In fact, what I should do is do myself a favor and just take a sip of water. Try and get that chili off the back of my throat. Okay, so that worked. All right. So what I'll now do is I'll get, again, one of these tubes. By the way, you can get these tubes. I call them Eppendorf tubes, but Eppendorf is actually the original manufacturer. These days you can kind of, I think the other term is centrifuge tube. So I want to get this material. And I wanted to do all the demonstrations for you just to kind of give you a real sense of, what the workflow is kind of like. So I just missed that guy there. I don't like handling this with my fingers because, it's later on you regret it when you. But that said, I weighed it out. I've got it in the tube. I'll get the balance out of the way. What I'm now going to do is just dilute that again with a 1 in 10 dilution. So I've got 100 milligrams in there. I'll just add 900 microliters of buffer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now, something I didn't do, but I will do it, is actually share one of my screens with you in a minute, because I realized that when I did that reading earlier on that Tabasco sauce, I got a result of 5,290 Scoville Heat Units. And it also says upload complete. So I am going to dive into that shortly. But as I've started this next demonstration, let me kind of complete the next demonstration, and then we'll do it at the same time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull in my vortexer. Again, I've got this sample here, but most of the capsaicin is actually in that, essentially is in the flesh of the pepper, and I want the capsaicin in the solution. So I'll just put that down for a second. I'll just get a clean sensor onto there. And then I'll vortex, and we'll put some effort into getting the capsaicin out of the flesh and into the solution. So I'll probably do this for about 30 seconds. In fact, while it's doing that, I might just share my screen here. So I'm just going to do a quick refresh. So earlier on, when I was doing the Tabasco, I called it a mild sauce, and the data's actually gone up to the cloud. And this is good, because what it allows me to do, see, is if I'm I'm the manufacturer or the quality manager, you know, I can actually go in here and I can answer a few questions. I can say, okay, so that was my sample. Yes, I recognize the ID. Is that today's date? Is that today's time? Who did the work? Okay, I can see who did the work. What did, you know, did I get a capsaicin signal? And I appreciate now today I'm not doing any slides, but this is what we call peak 1 for capsaicin. This is for peak 2 for capsaicin. This is peak 3 for capsaicin. You can really, you know, I mean, it's very distinctive, and you'll see this throughout this presentation this afternoon, or demo, I would call it, that we keep getting the same peaks. You can see the analysis. I could even answer the question, how much dilution did actually this sample undergo? And I can see the dilution factor was 1 in 10. So I can answer so many questions about this. And I get my result here. So I can actually, if I so wish, and I can export it also as a PDF, save it up on a server somewhere, save it in my folder system. You don't have to have done that, because all the data is saved in the cloud anyway. But it just gives you that extra sense of, you know, if you want to give a report or give a report to a supplier, or not, yeah, maybe in a supplier, or but maybe also somebody later on in the supply chain as well. You can do that. You can print it out as a PDF as well. So it got all the pertinent information, time, date, who did it, what the raw signal looked like, what the value looks like. It's essentially all in there. Now I'm going to go back now to the actual, let's say, demonstration that I was doing. So I took 100 milligrams of the chili. I've vortexed it. I've put a fresh sensor in here. I'm just going to change the name in the app so I can actually, you know, find it. So this is fresh chili. It's just chopped up. I like to put 10 in, because it just gives me a quick mental note of how much dilution I did on it. And I'll just say 1 here. And I'm now going to take 50 microliters of that, and I will test it, and we will see what Scoville heat units we get. So I will take the vortex out of shot. I'll bring the food sense generation 4 in. I will flick this open. I will get my 50 microliters here. I will put this on. I will go done here, come back here, go continue. Make sure I choose a 1 in 10, because that was the dilution that I did do. I hit start, and the assay itself actually takes 13 seconds. So you can see that, you know, I'm not criticizing the system, but there's more time taken this, you know, in actually preparing the sample than there is in actually running it. Now, I was expecting this, and what it said here is too high, dilute more. So I like you don't need to scratch your head on that. I'll show you what that actually means. It's giving me instructions. It said too high, so too much capsaicin, dilute more, and I'll do that dilution now. But I kind of knew where that was coming. I'll just share my screen with you just to kind of show you what that means in terms of the data. So I'm sorry, I keep having to drink water to get rid of that. So I'll just do a refresh here. There's the new data. Oh, too high. What does that mean? Okay, well, let's have a quick look at that raw data. And it will load up. So what's happened here is it's actually just a little bit too high. I can just see it just here, just a bit too much capsaicin in that sample, but nice intense peaks. I was saying earlier on that, look, that's my peak 1, that's my peak 2, that's my peak 3. I'm really sorry, but that's a very distinct signal, again, for capsaicin. I can see the analysis, but it's advised me on the app to do some more dilution. So I'll do another dilution for you now. So let me just change cameras for a second, and you can see that. So I've got my 1 in 10 sample here. I'm just going to throw away one of the other samples I just prepared, because otherwise you'll end up essentially confusing me. I'm just going to take 100 microliters of that 1 in 10 dilution of the chili. But what I'll do is I'm just going to bring this in for a second, because I want to show you that I really want to make sure this is homogenized before I take 100 microliters of it. So let me just, whoops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so I've quickly homogenized that. I'll flip it open. I will get 100 microliters out of here. I've brought it up into the pipette tip. I'll put that into there. Right, so now I've got 100 microliters there. I'm just going to get a clean pipette tip. And I'm just going to dilute my 1 in 10 by another factor of 10. So I'll just do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. Okay. So because that's 1 plus 9 gives me my 10. So 1 in 10 is now just become 1 in 100. There's my sample. I'll just flick that sensor off. I'll grab a new sensor. I'll put that in like that. I'll close that up. I will get ready to put 50 microliters on, but I think what I'll do is I'm just gonna name this, because I'm going to do another sample now. But this, I'm just going to change the name to 1 in 100, because it helps me keep track of things a little bit, especially when you're going fast like this. I'll get 50 microliters onto that sensor, which I will do now. So I might just give it a final vortex just before I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to make sure there was no settling whilst I was sort of, doing a few jobs there. Right, so there's my 1 in 100. Continue. Make sure I choose 1 in 100 now, because it's not 1 in 10. It's actually 1 in 100. So now I'll make sure I choose that 1 in 100, which I've done. Start measurement, and off it goes. All right, so I can, again, I'm not asking people to interpret this in real time, but it does just give you a sense that something's happening, and it's not just kind of, there's not an error going on. So now I've come back with 8,810. Now this is important, see, because this is a bird's eye chili. And before people react and say, hang on, bird's eye chili is 50,000 to 100,000. When people report the Scoville Heat Unit, I'm sure you know this, but when people report the Scoville Heat Unit of Chillies, let's say Pepper X, what they're reporting there is the dry weight, the desiccated weight, the weight where they've removed all the water. This is fresh chilies. So 90% of this chili is actually water, and effectively the capsaicin is diluted. So when you measure fresh chilies, we've really had to educate a lot of people on this. When you measure fresh chili, you're going to get about 1/10 the answer you're expecting from the if you look it up on the internet, say, oh, that's a 50,000 to 100,000 chili. Yes, it is when you dried it, but this is a wet weight. So in fact, that, you know, a quick back of the envelope mental calculation, 8,810 is actually 88,000 Scoville heat units for that chili. So I'll put that down for a second. Let's go and have a look at the cloud. This is a really great way of, you know, really kind of engaging with your test. It's not just a number, you know, and you're sort of left effectively in a sort of belief system. So the 1 in 10. Now let's just do a quick refresh, and we've got the 1 in 100, and then we'll dive into that. Every time we do it, you don't have to worry where your data is. Your data is being saved to the cloud. So we got, again, beautiful signals. Don't forget how intense this really must be, because this is actually 100 times diluted, and we've still got these peaks, you know, and those peaks, if I look at that peak there, let's make a comparison with Tabasco earlier on, which is only 1 in 10 dilution. I mean, this when you start doing this, you start getting a real sense of things, if I can call it that. So there's that peak height, but that's 1 in 10. And don't forget, now we're talking about a 1 in 100, and in fact, it's still quite intense, and that's on the raw chili. And here it comes, and there's our 1 in 100. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to another sample type. I'll bring it into shot. I'll stop sharing that screen for a second, because then everything will appear a little bit bigger. So I have a much more viscous sample. Earlier on, obviously, I couldn't. What I'm going to show you is actually you can pipette even these kind of viscous samples. I'm just going to pull these samples out my way, because otherwise I end up getting confused by all the samples in front of me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 100 microliters of this sample. So put my that down. This is quite viscous, so I'm actually trying to pull the pipette up quite slowly to make sure I got it. I'm actually not happy with that. I'm actually going to give that another go, because I didn't get a very good sample of it. If I can't pipette it, then I have to weigh it. And in a live demo, it's easier to weigh. It's easier to pipette than it is to weigh, but I'll have another go at doing that. Right, so nice viscous sample. It's not super runny, let's say. Right, so I've got my material up into my now I'll get it out of the pipette, which I've done. Same procedure as earlier on. You don't have to keep doing these kind of serial dilutions that I've been doing. Once you've tested your sample a few times, you'll know exactly what dilution you require. But I'm just kind of showing you that the app is actually quite smart, and it will actually guide you in. Because one of the questions is, well, how do I know what dilution to use? Well, you'll soon get a sense of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, cool. So that's a 1 in 10 dilution. I do it in that very pedantic way, because it just kind of, you know, emphasizes exactly what kind of volumes I'm doing. You know, I do have variable pipette, so I can do that a lot quicker, but for the sake of a demo, it makes it a bit more clear. So I can see this is a very heterogeneous at the moment. I'll go back to the trusty vortexer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not the same as trying to extract a chili. It is mostly in the liquid phase, so it is a bit easier to prepare this. Things like mayos, you know, have that kind of thick viscosity as well. I've just done a bit of vortexing there. There's the sample. I will get a sensor, put the sensor onto the meter. I will now just name it, so I can effectively find it again. Right, so this is at the moment it's only 1 in 10. It's quite viscous. Hot sauce 10, that will help me remind it. 1, right, okay. So we're almost ready to go. I just need to put that sample on the sensor. So 50 microliters, and we're essentially good to go. So flip open the sample. I'll just give it a final vortex actually just before I do that, because things can settle quite quickly. There we are. So I've just sort of probably resuspended everything. Sample onto sensor and continue. It is 1 in 10, so I don't really need to do anything there, but I'll hit start measurement and off it goes. Now notice, just out of interest, if you see that, that's a big indicator that this is quite a hot sauce. You see the way those are flatlined? So that's a big indicator that this is a hot sauce. And it says, oh, okay, upload complete, too high, dilutes more. So I will actually do that. So it was a bit like the Chillies earlier on. It's a bit of a higher Scoville heat unit. And I will be really careful because, you know, with this kind of stuff, you know this, get it on your fingers and you accidentally scratch later on, and it can be quite painful. So I'll put the sensor on there, but I'm not going to do anything yet because I actually need to just prepare a essentially a 1 in 100 dilution. I'll just grab a pipette. I'll give it a quick vortex because again, I want this homogeneous. You know, I want to grab 100 microliters out of there. That's representative of it. So if I give it a vortex like that, then I've sort of suspended everything. I come in, I take my 100 microliters, I close that off, I put that to the side, I put my 100 microliters in there. I'll give that a dilution. As I say, I'll add like 900 microliters to that. We'll measure that and we'll be on our way, I believe. I might just top up with a little bit more buffer, be a little bit low there. I know it's obvious, and I'm sure you wouldn't, but I did see some the other day actually putting the pipettes into the buffer, and that's a really bad idea because then you're going to contaminate your stock solution. So it's just good, you know, good practice not to do that. I've decanted it and then I do it. 1, I want to get a better one than that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so we've done our 10x dilution. So that's bringing what was originally 1 in 10 to 1 in 100. Our vortex again. I know I've said it, but I'll say it again. You won't need to do this serial dilution. I'm just pretending that I don't know. You know, I have no idea what the Scoville heat units of this is. Though the back of my throat does actually tell me that this is hot. What I'll now do is I'll put 50 microliters of this 1 in 10 onto the sensor. We'll measure it. We'll see what essentially happens next. Right. That's closed. I'll just get the app set up. I'll put 1 in 100 here, which I have done. I'll put the sample on. Right, I've done that. I'll go continue. Make sure I've changed to 1 in 100. The app is smart. As long as I put that in correctly, it will tell me what the pre-diluted sample is. I can still see it's quite intense because that's actually flatline, but I want to see what the next peak looks like. Didn't quite go flatline, so we may just get it this time. Nope, it says too high, dilute more. So I will do that. Again, you don't have to go through these serial dilutions. crumbs. I just realized now I've just got myself a little bit mixed up as to what was what. 1 in 10. Oh, all right. I'm taking a bit of a risk, but I will assume that that is my 1 in my 1 in 100. I apologize if I get that wrong. But I will grab a new sensor. I think I've got my eye on the right one. If not, I apologize. And right, because I may have just lost track just for a second there, because all the tubes look the same. Right. What I'll do is give this. Let me just look at this. Yeah, I'll give this a vortex. I'm worried that that actually is a mix-up. I'm going to take my risk, and I hope I get this right. But if I do, if I get it wrong, I apologize. Right. So what I'll do is I will take my pipette. I'll take 100 microliters. And if I have taken the wrong one, then it'll probably just still throw me an error, but then I'll just kind of show you the data in the cloud anyway. And then I'll take 900 microliters of the buffer. And then I'll vortex it, then I'll put it on there, and then we'll hopefully get to the right answer. Right. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. I'll vortex this really quickly because I want to appreciate time is right. So now I've got that sample prepped. At this point, you can see it's undergone so much dilution, that you don't need to vortex to the same degree, because it's not like you've got solids and you're trying to extract out of solids. No, we're really left in the world of liquids at this point. But it does show you how hot things can be, that they've actually got that much capsaicin in them. Now what I'll do is I'll go done here. I will just change this to 1000 so I can basically help me find it, which I will do. I'll go continue. I'll probably choose the 1000 there. I'm almost ready to go. Just put that sample on. Like I said, I make apologies if I may have just mixed up some samples there, but and off we go. I think I can see the peaks anyway, so I think we'll get something, but I'm just a bit worried that I did actually grab the wrong one. But that said, let's see what we get. But not too bad, actually, because it's actually come back at, in fact, I must have grabbed the right one because it's so hot. It's 200,000 Scoville Heat Units. It says 207,000, but I mean, it's so hot anyway. It's 207,000 Scoville Heat Units. So that's a much more viscous. Viscosity is kind of a slight clue on it, but it's also, I mean, it's burning hot, and I've got to really be careful about my hands. Now let's have a quick look at my screen. So if I share the screen with you now, let's go into reports. Let's do a quick refresh on this. So we've done hot sauce 1 in 10, 1 in 100, 1 in 1000. And then I can come in here and have a quick look. Don't forget 1000, times dilution, and you can still see the peaks are flipping intense. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I mean, peak 1, peak 2, and peak 3. I just note to see that peak there. When I look at that, that's, in my world, that's got a peak height of 3 here. But, I just want to sort of contrast that then with the material earlier on, the mild sauce. And that's why I'd say there's a difference between artisan sauces and kind of some of the hot sauces the artisan sauces rather, and the commercial sauces, that this is only a 1 in 10 dilution. and it's 1 in 10, and we've actually had to dilute this other sauce 1,000 times, or yeah, rather than 10 times, in order to really bring the signal into the same place. So there's a sort of it's not so much a science, but it's something called homeopathy, where they do a lot of dilution, and you can see we diluted, and it's still intense. So I would like to kind of, in some ways, kind of summarize this, if I could. This is the Food Sense Generation 4. This afternoon, I did a very mild sauce, just easy, 1 in 10 dilution. The fact that the sauce is already 95% water means that, it's easy enough just to kind of resuspend that in a buffer. I also did a couple of chilies. So I bought these chilies. They're bird's eye chilies. They've got a reputation for being 50,000 to 100,000 Scoville Heat Units. We got them in at 88,000, and then I got this really hot sauce, which is a kind of more like a. Sorry, I'm holding this up to the wrong place. It's more like an artisan sauce. It's not something you could buy in a supermarket because supermarkets wouldn't sell it, but not because it's not tasty. It's just because it's slightly. I'm not going to say dangerous, but you've got to know what you're doing if you're going to be selling a sauce like that, and if you're going to be consuming a sauce like that as well. But if you do have any questions regarding Food Sense Generation 4, essentially don't hesitate to reach out to us. With that, it's coming up to tea time here in the UK, but if you have any questions, I'll send you a recording of this shortly, and hopefully that will be useful to you. Okay, thanks very much.